Welcome to the Side Action Podcast, the sports gambling show that covers everything in the world of sports betting from A through Z. We'll cover the four major sports, as well as anything and everything in between worth some action, and will increase the size of your bankroll. And here we go.
Welcome to Side Action, episode 32 of season 7. My name is Jim Weglars, aka Wegs. You can follow me at Wegspool on X and on Instagram.
And I'm Coop. You can check me on Instagram at Dalton Cooper and on X at Mr. Grumpy Gills. Don't forget about TikTok. I'm going to tell you that every episode just to make sure you don't forget.
I know. And someday we'll get Dalton to join TikTok. By the way, if we can get Art over here, we'll start.
We have a very special guest. Yeah.
We have a very special guest today. I've been trying to get him on for like the whole 7 seasons we've been on the air. This is Art Primetime Murphy, aka Horseshoe Murphy. Introduce yourself, Art. How are you?
Hey guys, it's such an honor to be on the Side Action Podcast this evening, and I appreciate it so much. And I'm hoping to provide some winners today in our little segment in a bit. And thank you for having me on. So I'm looking forward to it. And hey, if it goes off well, I pick some winners for you guys. Maybe I'll come back down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. So just a little background. Art and I used to work together, and he put together the softball team, and then, over time became really good friends. He's on our softball team now, and, he's been my Vegas guy. He's my dice guy. We've got some recounting the weekend here. We went to Vegas last weekend. This guy just flew in for like 48 hours. I think it was like 40 hours. He flew in on Friday night. Dalton, he was like shot out of a cannon, dude. This dude hit. He showed up at the theater. We were at a burlesque show at the Venetian. Very good show. Dita Von Teese is her name. She was really cool. And Art's giving a standing ovation mid-show, watching my friend dance. He's obviously very talented. We had a great time, and we obviously lost some money at the tables, but he was having a great time, and I love that energy, Brian. You did a great job.
Yeah, you know what? It didn't look like I was going to be able to make it out there because I had some, nowadays when you schedule these medical appointments, it's like 3-4 months out, and I didn't want to cancel it. But then I kept thinking it through, like, you know what? A 24-hour/48-hour Vegas trip, that's plenty of time as long as you use every minute of it. And so last minute, a week before the trip, I called up Jim, like, count me in, brother. I'm coming on out to Vegas. You got to work hard and play hard. And I certainly tried to do a little bit of both. And what fueled me on was a couple of those Manhattans early on over at that show. And that got me going good. So that was a lot of fun.
He was hitting on the waitress. He was hitting on the waitress too. I like that, Prime. I saw what you're doing there. So for me, the trip was like 3 segments. Like I arrived on Wednesday, hung out with Paul. He wasn't with me that first night when the guy had a good roll at the table at the Flamingo. And then the next day we went to Circa, hung out most of the day. We were downtown Vegas a lot. And then Dave Strickland, Arizona Dave, showed up. He rolled in kind of like Art did on Friday. He rolled in on Thursday. We went out, threw some bones, had some time. And then the next day we kind of chilled out, and then we all rallied up. You didn't actually see Paul though, or you missed Paul. He didn't come to the show. He had a $4,000 Wheel of Fortune. Dempsey, what is his nickname? Mr. High Low is his nickname, as we talked about last week, because he hit the high low. But he hit a $4,000 Wheel of Fortune on the way out, so he left the winner. I left the loser, but then Primetime and I talked him into going to the. I get back on the red eye on Sunday, and I'm like, feeling like crap, trying to catch up with the pool. Monday, regrettably, went to a wake, which happened to be out by near O'Hare. So we're like, hey, let's go to Rivers. Dude, Dalton, we get to Rivers. First roller, we check in. We're like, what's our strategy? First roller crushes it. I won like $800 in the first roller. I'm like, we're out of here, right, Prime?
Nice. Hell yeah.
This Tuesday night, Jimmy Fresh Your Luck Wegs gets there, and he's like, I'm downtown. Let me go to Bally's. Let's see if I can press this luck. No shit, dude. Third shooter crushes it. I won $1,700, dude. So I'm back up. Baby. Yes.
Wow. You're the man.
So anyway, that was what happened. What about you, dude? What happened this weekend? You bit the big move. You got the new place.
Yeah, we spent the weekend moving. It went pretty well. Luckily, the weather cooperated. We started nice and early Saturday morning, and we wrapped up probably right around midnight Saturday night. So Not too hateful. Just kind of getting acclimated. She ordered a coffee table, and
Okay.
I don't know if the instructions. I've never seen worse instructions in my entire life with any piece of furniture or equipment I've ever purchased in my life. So it's just been putting all the final touches on it and everything else in between. But yeah, other than that, it's been we had bowling Tuesday, but I mean, other than that, it's been a pretty slow week, if anything. So
Still dominating the league, still on top.
yeah, we're hanging in there, just trying to keep Irv's head on straight. You know what I mean? So other than that, we're really enjoying it.
There you go. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, we're gonna do the who we're taking the shed, and Prime's gonna join us. So I don't know. You want to start? You want to start, Art? You want to do the honors? Who are you taking to the shed?
I got one sports
in the shed.
I got one sports person put to the shed, and then I have one Vegas story, a person put in the shed.
Okay.
First, we'll start with sports, since this is obviously a sporting betting podcast here, and I'm gonna give that one to Brad Underwood, the head coach of University of Illinois. Nice. And this guy, he can certainly recruit, but when it comes down to in-game coaching and then like adjustments at halftime and things like that, he's just brutal. I mean, last year, yeah, he got to the Elite Eight, but the teams he beat, he had 2 cream puff games, for the first 2 rounds. Yeah, they beat Iowa State. I tip my cap to him, but then did not show up against Connecticut last year. And then, they won the first game, which they should have easily. But then when they got, into a game with Kentucky, it was a physical match, and Illinois just folded like a,
like a lawn chair, baby.
They were just done. So I give it to Brad Underwood. Second one is not a sports story, but it comes from our Vegas trip this past weekend. At the crap tables, we were kind of up and down, and then one night actually we were down to the old part of Las Vegas, the downtown area, and I was on a little bit of a tear there, and we're kind of catching up and making some profits. And there was this old guy who was the stick guy on the craps table, and I gave him the nickname Blue from it's Old School, that movie Old School, Blue. He looked like Blue, but like sick, about maybe not gonna make it the next year. The guy was like sniffling, and, I was hoping not to get a cold or anything. It flew from the guy. But I was just on a tear on hitting numbers and making some money for all the table, and especially for Jim and I. And then the dude calls me out. It's like, hey, you gotta hit the middle of the wall, not the corner of the wall. And you know what? When I was throwing it, I wasn't even throwing when the dice were hitting the wall and they were bouncing like crazy. So there was so much randomness going on. I've never been called out like that. So I'm gonna give that. I'm gonna take him to the shed, old man Blue to the shed.
Yeah, that was like Dave Strickland's grandpa. He was trying to take it out on Art, man. He was like, "This dude, I had the 4 built up to 100, which was good on a buy, which was going to pay me 200 on the next roll. I'm sorry, the 10 and the 4 I did max odds of like $125. You got to pay me 250. This kid is just crushing it, and we were down. We were getting hit at 4 queens. We were not doing well. I was down to actually. It was funny. Dave was standing behind me, Strickland. I'm like, I'm all in, dude. I got no chips in front of me. And so then it was like Art was slowly bringing us back. And it was like, he hits one more thing. I'm basically back to almost not even, but like $100 down. Yeah, old man River, get rid of that guy.
Yeah, he was trying to throw me off. He didn't want me to go on a long tear. So he's hoping I mess up. And the funny thing, Dalton, the very next throw after he threw it, I hit that point and it looked right at him like,
hell yeah. I was gonna say this guy didn't work for the casino, did he? He didn't work there. He was a player, right?
He was the stick man. He was moving the dice.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, I was like, how can a guy that's playing in the game complain about a guy who's winning numbers? You know what I mean? Like, okay, so but he did work there. See, that's crazy though. Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah, there's no way we tipped after that one.
That guy belongs in the shed. Yeah, get his ass out of here.
Get in the shed.
Dolphin. That's it for me, guys.
All right, what about you, Coop? Who you got in the shed this week?
Oh, man. Well, first of all, I'm going to put the transfer portal in the shed. I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but we had over 1,700 players enter the transfer portal when it opened. I believe it was Monday or Tuesday. Wow. It beat the previous record of 291, which was set last year. So you saw about, a 1,500 increase or 1,400 and change increase.
That's insane.
Yeah, no more of this building from within culture. You see a lot of companies do it that way. Your sports teams don't do it like that anymore. They go out and get talent, and they pay for it for sure. So the philosophy change I thought is just so interesting and fascinating. We could do a whole hour on that, I'm sure.
And that is that just college basketball?
Yeah, that was just
My God.
basketball. Yep, that was college basketball. And I think I saw another stat that there was only like 1,800 or 1,700 scholarships that are offered on a yearly basis in basketball.
My
So
God.
basically, everybody gets offered a scholarship goes to the transfer portal if you want to number it up the same way. So thought that was pretty interesting. And then I got to put the Houston Astros in the shed. I don't know if you saw this, but they lost to the Space Cowboys, which is their AAA affiliate, and they lost 7-6 in an interleague, or I guess an inter matchup, if you will. So
Wow.
I have no idea what kind of year the Astros are going to have. They obviously weren't banging on the trash cans in that game because they would have won handily if they were. But when you lose to your AAA affiliate, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, from an organizational standpoint, you got to feel good about the young kids. But man, when your big leaguers are getting beat, it's tough look. That's a real tough look.
I love the name though, Space Cowboys. Yeah. Let's go. Let's go. Steve Miller Band.
Oh
All
yeah.
right. Well, I'm going to take Rick Pitino to the shed. I know he was my guy all year. He was coaching the hell out of St. John's. But what is he doing? He's benching his best player, RJ Luis Jr. at like the last 4 minutes of the game. The game was in the balance, and obviously, we were watching the game in Vegas, and I was the last like minute and a half. I'm like, why are they shooting threes? This team can't make threes. We talked about this all year, Dalton. But like in the end, it's like you're gonna have your best player on the bench. I don't care if he's 3 for 17 or not. You got to give him a chance. And so I'm not sure what he was thinking. It's like, I'm going to teach you a lesson. I'm sure that guy hit the portal like as soon as he got the end of the game. So yeah, sorry, Rick. I mean, I get it. You want to be the hard coach. It just doesn't work that way anymore in this in basketball. So, and then the other is the double-digit C's, dude. One double-digit seed advance to the Sweet 16. It's just sad. I mean, it may be this part of this the portal, the NIL, maybe the days of March Madness where you have like, well, CSU should have advanced, but you should have had teams to advance, but only 10. It was like Arkansas was a 10 seed, not exactly a crazy upset. I mean, they did upset St. John's, but that's unbelievable. So maybe the committee got it right. I mean, I was dogging them in their picks, but maybe they did get some things right.
John Calipari can still coach. That's what I learned.
You can. You definitely can. So what about Club Dub? Want to go to the top again, Art? Who you got in Club Dub this week?
Sure. You know what? The opposite of Illinois, even though the team did not win, the University of Connecticut came up and showed and played a heck of a game. Nice. The second game, they did, they fought to the very end. They took the lead. Florida came rushing back, but then they came back again and made it a game. I give so much credit to Coach Hurley. Heck of a coach, great team. Yes. They didn't have the full team that they had, the year before, but they did not go down easily. They fought like a champion, and I really enjoy watching games like that. So, University of Connecticut, Dan Hurley, bravo. And then my second one, again, it's not a sports related thing, but the person that I'm going to give kudos to plays a bunch of sports, and it's Jimmy Wegs right here. Nice. Man, this guy sets up so many fun trips. To Vegas and to your spring trips over the years, and then he's the ringleader and the head coach for our softball team. And without Jim, I bet you this softball team would have gone away years ago. So Jim, you're the glue, you're the spoke of the wheel that keeps us all together, and you're a great friend. So thank you for everything you do.
Thanks, Prime. You'll get your payout later. Nice. Your payola for saying these things. By the way, all of our people are going to be in Club Dub. It's the Primetime Murphy wing of Club Dub that was built out this year.
Primetime
Lounge. It's the lounge and pleasure dome is what we call it now, the VIP area. So,
man.
Thanks, Prime. I appreciate it.
Hell yeah.
What about you, Coop? What do you got?
No, absolutely. And that's a good call on Dan Hurley. I don't think Florida's going to play a more physical team in this tournament than what they just played with UConn. So I really like their chances of going all the way. But I did have two. I didn't write the second one down, but I had Tyrese Proctor, the Duke Blue Devils point guard. Everybody's talking about Cooper Flag. He has scored 19 and 25 points, but this is the most impressive part is he shot 75% and 87.5% from 3-point range. I think he's the only player in tournament history to average over 75% from 3-point range in the tournament, regardless of the circumstance. I think for maybe multiple games, probably. But yeah, he's playing really well. Duke's rolling right now. I even heard the other day they were comparing the head coach. What is it, Shire or Scholler?
John
That they're
Shire.
basically saying that he was like an all-time head coach already, which I was like, well, we need to probably pump the brakes on that. I know he's coaching Duke and everything, but my God. And then the second one, the Seam Head Express, baseball is back. So we're putting baseball in Club Dub. So opening day is today. Get excited. I had the Yankees and Brewers on. I don't know what the score is. It's on commercial right now, but yeah, baseball is back. So I'm getting excited for the Free Swingers, baby. That just means that we're one step closer.
One step closer to defending a title that we missed it off again last year. But yeah, thankfully I got Tyrese Proctor on the player league, the player pool
that
I do with Action.
Nice.
Yeah, he was awesome. So I was excited. I hopefully keep seeing the basket like he did this past weekend. I got the Terps, and I hate to give it to them because they beat my Rams. It was one of the best games of the tournament. Maryland played really well, stood in there down the stretch. The Rams, answered their cry, hit the big shot, but with 6 seconds they had to score, really got the ball out of bounds with 3.6. And Derek Queen, the freshman, I don't know if you heard the story, and there's our ambulance. We need that.
Yeah, give me the ball.
Queen, yeah, he said, they're like, the coach is like, who wants the ball? He's like, give me the effing ball. And he just grabbed it, 2 dribbles. I don't think it was a travel. Great shot off the backboard, in nothing but net. So that was pretty awesome.
And arguably the best nickname for the starting 5 in the tournament, the Crab 5. That's kind of fun.
Crab 5.
Yeah.
That's right. So we got them in Club Dub. So get in there, have fun. Maybe you can take out Florida. We'll see. And then BYU, this is my team. Although they almost blew it. Blew this one. But they were up by 8 points or something in the last 2.5 minutes, and then they did give it back. But they've definitely defied, not my odds because I've loved them all along, but they're one of those teams a little bit outside, 6th seed coming outside the box this year. So good job, BYU. I know you can't drink, and I know that my brother-in-law Dave sent me a message about how they're anti-gay, which of course I don't support at all. But in a pure basketball sense, BYU getting clubbed up for a minute until you get kicked out by whoever you get kicked out by.
Yeah, Steve Young is out there smiling somewhere.
That's right. Well, we've got Primetime Murphy on here for a reason, everybody. He is a horse racing guy. He knows his stuff. He actually is a part owner of a horse in Ireland, so he knows his stuff. His cousin, he'll talk about it as a horse that's going to be racing. So the purpose of this segment is to get you more up to speed on horse racing as we get close to the Triple Crown coming up. But there's some big races this weekend. You've got the Arkansas Derby, which somebody might be going to, and then the Florida Derby happening this weekend, which are 2 big feeder races into the Kentucky Derby. So I don't know what we want to know, Artist. Tell us the secret sauce. You've been killing it, and then you can go into the races specifically, dude.
Sounds good. Hey, so for horse racing, my first topic is I try to look for value when I'm going through a race card. I don't bet on every race, and I try to find a race where maybe the favorites are vulnerable. And those are the type of races that I try to hone in on when I have done well in the past. Now, the 2 races that we're going to talk about today are the Kentucky Derby prep races, the Florida Derby and the Arkansas Derby, and 100 points are on the table for the winner and 50 points for the second place horse, and then so on and so forth. And that's huge because if you come in first or second at these 2 races, you got to take it automatically into the Kentucky Derby the first Saturday in May, which is like the dream for all these horse owners and people in the field. And if you come in 3rd, 4th, and 5th, if you earn some points earlier in the prep season, then that could possibly get you over the line too. The cutoff usually around for 20th place is about 35 to 40 points. So coming in 3rd, 4th, and 5th is important for horses who have some points already. So well, let's go talk about the Florida Derby first, if you don't mind, Jim and
sure.
Dalton. This one I think might be chalky, and what I mean by chalky is that I think the favorite will win. The favorite of this for this race is Sovereignty. He's the 10th. I think he's the number 10 horse, and he's trained by Bill Mott, and Alvarado's a jockey. And this horse has won 2 races in a row, including the last race, the Fountain Youth at Gulfstream. This horse is I'd say he is a closer. And he'll be when the race starts, he'll drop back. He'll save energy and stamina. And then once you start getting to the 3rd turn-ish, that's when the jockey will give him like a little tap and the horse will get going. and he'll have plenty in his tank to get to the leaders. And the impressive thing about the Fountain Youth win a few weeks ago was that it was a shorter race, and once you get down to the final stretch, since it was a shorter race, there was like less room to try to close in onto the front running horses. So a lot of the experts out there didn't think he would have enough room, so they didn't think he would win that race. But he actually did win, and he beat a really solid horse, River Thames. So I think this horse is the real deal. It's from the breeders Go Dolphin. Just great connections here. So there's not much value in my mind. But if you wanted to try to make some money in this race, I'd suggest doing an exacta, but not an exacta box where you box in it. It's just straight exacta. It'd be Sovereignty on top, and then the horses I'm looking at to come in second are this horse, the number 1 horse, Neo Quest. He's trained by Safi Joseph Jr. and Sias is the jockey. This horse came in 3rd in the Fountain of Youth against Sovereignty a few weeks ago. And I think he has the speed figures to possibly pop in there and come in second. Now, the other horse I'm looking at is Disruptor. He's a lightly raced horse. He won his last race, and the connections are just incredible. You got Todd Pletcher and Irad Ortiz Jr. as the jockey, and those guys are gonna be going out in front and trying to wire the field and get the win. Now, if you don't like Sovereignty, maybe you do the reverse. You say Disruptor on top, and Sovereignty doesn't make there and get in second. But I would not box it because Sovereignty's he's gonna go off really low, and there's just not much value there. So you're just gonna have to make a determination, who you want in first and second. And my bet, I think tomorrow on Saturday will be Sovereignty over probably Disruptor. That's the way I'm gonna handle it.
And just for our listeners that don't know what the hell you were talking about, we'll just go basics. So the exact is picking the first and second correctly. But boxing it is basically having either horse finish first or second. Trifecta is 3 and superfecta is 4. So in your particular case, you think it's not, Sovereignty is probably going to win. So you'd kind of just play off the second horse more than that, right?
That is correct, Jim. You got it right on the dot. Okay. I probably wouldn't do trifectas and superfectas for this race because most likely the favorite will win. If I didn't think the favorite would win, I would maybe take a flyer on some trifectas and possibly a superfecta, but not in this race.
Okay. So with the Arkansas Derby, we'll get in a little more detail because you've been talking about your cousin's horse and stuff. This is a shorter field. What is it, 18 field? Is that right? You can see that. Yeah, 8 horse field. Yeah. And so we'll go from top to bottom. And do you want to give each one a review, or you want me to go through the whole field first, Art?
Why don't you just introduce the horse? Introduce the horse, and I'll give a little information about each horse, and then we'll go on to the next horse. Okay.
All right. So this one's tough to pronounce. Barrington's Baton, which is 30 to 1 on my sheet as the 1 horse. What do you know about this one?
Well, he's ran a lot, 10 races, and he hasn't really beat anyone good. He came in 8th place at the Rebel Stakes, about a month ago over at Oaklawn Park. In my mind, he's not going to win this race or even come in second. So it's a toss in my book. So we can move on to the next horse, Jim.
Okay. First division is 20 to 1. That's the 2 horse.
Yes. So, actually the connections are good here. It's the connections of Kenny McPeak, the trainer, and Brian Hernandez, the jockey. If you guys remember, that's the connections that won the Kentucky Derby last year with Mystic Dan. So, some folks might be gravitating to this horse. It's lightly raced. It's ran 3 times. It's coming first, second, and third in those 3 races. So he's showing up in the money line, which is all good things. There is some value there. The only thing is, I just don't know if he's A, fast enough, and B, he hasn't raced against anyone that I'm impressed about at this time. So in my mind, I don't see this horse coming in first or second or even third too. So he's a toss in my book.
Okay, great.
And real quick, I hate to interrupt you. When you're doing this handicapping in your mind as the horse expert here, do you take more solace in how much a horse is raced or who a horse is beaten in said races? So like if you had like a 3-race horse, like you just mentioned, maybe they didn't run very well, but it hasn't been ran as much, or would you rather have more solace in maybe the horse that has ran, 20, 30 races, but has beaten, some people along the way?
Dalton, you just hit the nail for the final nail in the coffin for this race, because that's going to be the key question we get to the 9th horse later on. This horse has only run one time, won impressively, like the highest buyer figure ever for that distance at Oakland Park a month ago. And he's only won one time. Connections are great. It's an Into Mischief sire, so the horse could run the classic distance. The only thing, it ran 6 furlongs, for its first race, which means it's a one-turn speed race. And the trainer's Bob Baffert, and he's known for that, taking these like quarter type horses and running them really quick, and then seeing if any of them has stamina for the classic distances, for the Kentucky Derby. So he's known to do this, to bring a lightly raced horse and try to roll the dice and see what happens. So the number 9 horse, he'll be he is the morning line favorite, and probably be the favorite going off, because Bob Baffert is probably one of his fastest horses out there, great bloodlines. So that's something, if it's a lightly raced horse, then you got to look at the connections, the sire, the mare, and all that. And then you got to try to make some forecasts, can that horse take it's going further, and can it handle the distance? And then, so it's a weighing. There's no like exact answer to that, Dalton. It just depends.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Prime gets to watch the races because he has some sort of subscription, so he can rewatch the races and kind of scout the horses himself. So that's what the difference between you and I. We're just reading some book at the track.
Yeah, I'm taking the guy next to me's word for it.
So what about the next horse? Publisher 6-1. So obviously one of the favorites here. What do you think about this horse?
So it's Steve Asmussen, the trainer. Just absolutely love that guy. Great trainer. He's got Flavien Prat, the French rider. So again, great connections here on this horse. Asmussen has a horse in the Kentucky Derby already, Tistastic. He won the Louisiana Derby last week. So, he's already sitting pretty with one Kentucky Derby horse. When I look at Publisher, he's raced 6 times, lifetime, and 1 win. And, his last race was in the Rebel. He came in 4th behind Cold Battle, Madkit Road, and Sad Man. And the race before was at the Southwest Stakes, which I was at, 2 months ago. He came in 7th. He had a trouble trip at the beginning of that race. It was like, bumper cars. All these horses like bumping into each other. One horse got slammed into the rail, and it kind of threw him off. So some folks give him a pass on that. But when I watched that race, he had plenty of time to do something. He didn't do anything in that race, and he came in 7th. So I really was not that impressed with that race. But a lot of people, a lot of folks give a pass to that race. But he hasn't been in the top, the top prep horses at least at this time. Can he move forward? That's the question. He is a deep closing type of horse, and with everything that I just said in mind, we'll talk about my final predictions at the end. But I'm not using him coming in 1st or 2nd.
Okay, I'm writing down my notes. Okay, so the next horse we have is Best Friend Rocket at 20-1.
That's right. Yeah, D. Wayne Lucas, the coach. He's got another horse. He has American Promise already qualified for the Kentucky Derby, as American Promise won the Virginia Derby last weekend as well. So he's already got a Kentucky Derby horse. So he's getting greedy. He's trying to get another one. And, and I'm a big D. Wayne Lucas fan. He's been around for a long, long time. 90-year-old, young man, and all the best to him, good health, and I hope he can, get another one in. But to make this really quick, the last race he beat First Division, the number 2 horse, last race. Again, he's not lightly raced. He's raced 6 times, 3 wins. The thing is, I don't know when I look at who he's beaten, I'm not that impressed. So he's a toss in my book. And let's move on to the next one. So keep this thing going.
Okay. What about Speed King at 15-1?
All right, now we're heading into from here on out, from 5 to 9. These are the horses that we're going to keep a close eye on, and Publisher possibly as well if you do some deep exotics. Speed King is an interesting horse. The last race at the Rebel Stakes a month ago, they tried a different style. They tried to rate the horse, which means Speed King lives up to his name. He wants to be up in front and leading the way. So that's how he's run a bunch of times. But in the last race, the Connections decided to put him in, right behind the leading group. He did not like that at all. He finished in 10th place. So it's just brutal, really, really lousy showing. In the 2 races ago at the Southwest Stakes, he was up in front and he got Speed King beat him. Oh no, I'm sorry, Speed King won the race. He won the Southwest Stakes that race. The only thing is that was a lot shorter race 2 months ago, and now we're getting closer. We're lengthening the race out. It's going to be a longer race. I look at the bloodlines at Speed King, and I have some serious doubts that he could take the distance. The thing is, sometimes what these horses do, they'll get up in front and then slow down the fractions, and then sometimes the jockeys behind that horse won't mind. They'll just all go slow too, thinking they still have enough stamina to finish off the front leading horses. But sometimes that philosophy backfires on the horses behind them, because then the faster horse that has plenty of energy in the tank and takes it down the wire and wins the race. So I think that's the only way Speed could win the race, if it's slow fractions throughout. And again, we'll talk about that topic, about what kind of pace I think the race will be at the end. So for me, Speed King is not going to be a top 1 or 2 finisher for me.
Okay. You only got 3 horses from my list. Maybe there's another guy you have on the list here. I got Sandman 3-1. He's got a pretty low odds. You like this guy?
Great name.
Isn't he? Yeah, great name. Sandman is a tap-it horse, and tap-it horses they tend to be late developing horses. So I mean that kind of hits, that does hit the one of the targets there. He's ran a number of times, 7 times, 2 wins, 1 second, and 2 thirds. And he's always been around the money line, and he's run against the top, Kentucky Derby prep horses, and he's battled and done well. The thing, what I worry about him is he has a tap-it horses have like this running style where they look lost or confused, and especially when they're young, and they're just immature, because it's a 3-year-old horse. So he's been showing that quality, and that is a concern to me, that Sandman, is just not focused out there. The other interesting thing is too, that I was talking to one of my friends this morning. We noticed that they changed jockeys on this horse. Jose Ortiz is going to be on the irons on this horse on Saturday. And it's a huge upgrade for a jockey, but Jose is a very aggressive rider, and Sandman is a deep closing type of horse. In my mind, I think what it signals, now obviously I have no idea because I don't have any, I don't talk to the connections with this horse. I feel like they're going to, my friend and I feel like they're going to change the racing style of this horse. They're going to try to put this horse a little bit closer to the pace of the race, probably be more mid-pack, and be able to get an earlier jump and try to take the front leading horses. So I think that's why they made the jockey change. Who knows? But with that type, if they do that change in racing style, that sometimes those horses don't like that at all. The horses like their one type of racing style. And they also try to mix it up with them, and it might mess with that horse. So I'm a little bit leery about Sandman. So no, I don't think he's going to come in first or second.
Okay, well,
what's the sweet spot for age, by the way? As you were saying that, I have no idea what the sweet spot is for a horse.
So we're talking about the Kentucky Derby prep races. So they're all 3-year-old horses at this time. Next year, if it's if they get a year older, then it's 4 and up, typically for these graded stake races. So you could be racing 4, 5, 6, 7 probably. And the only thing what's going on nowadays, though, Dalton, is that if a horse wins a big race, these 3-year-old big races, they retire them and they send them to the breeding shed to make the money on breeding. Yeah.
Okay. Good to know.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so this next one has a special place in your heart. Monet's Magic. This is 20-1. We do know the owner here. So
great value.
Fill us in here.
So the reason why I was at the Southwest Stakes 2 months ago is my cousin, Dr. Dave Donnersberger, is a part owner of the horse, and he's been so kind and invited me to join him at the last race, and then up for this upcoming race on Saturday. So I'm actually heading out tomorrow morning to fly into Little Rock, Arkansas, and then drive over to Hot Springs, Arkansas, to go to Oaklawn Park and join up with the connections of Monet's Magic. Monet's Magic is a very interesting horse in my mind. Obviously, if you look at the speed figures, he does need improvement in order to beat the top horses on Saturday. But when you look at his maiden win, he won in November at Churchill Downs. He was a long shot horse, odd horse. I think it was like 22-1. And he was running mid-pack in that race. And actually, let me back up. On the first turn, he was 4 wide. He was about mid-pack throughout the back stretch of the race. And then on the final turn, he was 4 wide. And he made this huge run and beat some good quality horses and won his maiden race. The horses he beat were Kalahari Dreams at that time was a very solid Kentucky Derby prep horse. He beat Burnham Square, who won the Fountain Youth at Gulfstream Park 2 months ago. So that's a quality win there. And then he also beat American Promise, who I just mentioned earlier, that won the Virginia Derby, and it's going to be racing the Kentucky Derby. And Burnham Square most likely to be in the Kentucky Derby. So he beat 2 Kentucky Derby horses already on his maiden win. And then the next race was an allowance race at Oaklawn, and he won that allowance race on a muddy track. He didn't really beat any big horses in that race, but still it was an allowance win. And then his last race, which was 2 months ago, he ran in the Southwest Stakes. When I mentioned that at the beginning of the race, there was like all these horses bumping each other. He actually got out in front, a little faster than normal, which probably the connections don't want to see. They much rather see him start a little slower and then kind of build up at the end. But he's up in front. He kind of slowed down in the backstretch, and then once he got it going, D. Wayne Lucas had 2 horses in that race, and one of the horses probably shouldn't have been in the race, and he was up in front, and he was like dying, exhausted. And when the horse was slowing down, Monet's Magic was pinned on the rail and got blocked and had to check his momentum, slow down, and then restart. Once that happens against this quality field of horses, it's hard to to get back up in there. He did turn it on a little bit. He didn't show the speed that he showed in his maiden win or in the allowance win, but he did turn it on and got in 5th place. Which was a solid showing for that type, a trouble trip like that. He took a month off, did not race in the Rebel, and with the hopes of putting some weight on and some strength, and they're aiming for the Arkansas Derby. If he comes in 1st or 2nd, he'll be off to the Kentucky Derby. So obviously the connections are dreaming big, the next couple of days before the Saturday night race. And this is certainly a horse I am interested. I think this, compared to the Florida Derby, I think there will be some value there. I don't know if Monet's Magic can win, but I think he could possibly win, or maybe could come in 2nd, and dive in there. But we'll talk about that at the very end.
How much account do you take into weather when you're handicapping these races in your mind? Is there like if there is weather in the forecast, do you see more of your value in your underdogs because it kind of creates more of a level playing field? Is that how that works, or is there actually horses that are made to run in the mud, if you will?
You're spot on, Dalton. That's a great question. If you're Bob Baffert, or if you have a speed horse, you want to see a nice sunny dry day. You want that track big, nice and hard, just like it's in California. Because what's going to happen? That horse, a speed horse like that, if it slows down the fractions, is not working that hard, and then once it turns it on, he's not working hard, and then that horse will have plenty of stamina to go finish it off down the stretch. Now, yes, if it's wet and the track's muddy, I think it does level off the playing field. But some horses are mudders, they just like the mud. So, for everyone might be a mudder horse. They depend on the hooves types and all that stuff, and they just grip the wet ground well, and they could get through it. So there are always exceptions to the rule. But I think, like you're saying, a muddier track would level the playing field, and a mid-pack horse, closing type of horse, would have a better chance against these speed horses. Like a month ago at the Rebel Stakes, I was watching the races all day at Arkansas and in Oaklawn Park in Arkansas, and it was a nice sunny day. The track was firm and dry, and the speed horses were winning all day long. I didn't see like one closing horse getting close to win a race. So. Yeah, it's So you got to keep an eye on the weather. That's for sure.
Good to know.
All right, we got 2 more horses to get through. We got Cole Battle, who's showing us 7-2 right now. So the second favorite, I suppose, right? Or is this 3-1? Yeah, 7-2. So what do you say about this horse?
All this horse does is win. He's raced 7 times, 5 wins. He's got 4 wins in a row. He's won like the Rebel. He won the Smarty Jones. It just could go off and on. I think he's won like 4 stake races in a row. He hits all the check marks. This horse. He's ran in the best races. He ran against other Kentucky Derby prep horses, and he wins. This is like an underdog story too. He's a $100,000 horse. Comes from a small barn. Sorry, I should know the name, but it's Lonnie Brealey, and so he's not. I'm totally rooting for Cole Battle. Great story. He's already qualified for the Kentucky Derby. This is a used horse for sure. The only thing is, if you want to look on the negative side, the horse is qualified for the Derby. They might be just using this race just to keep him fit. The trainer might just tell him, don't whip and overuse the horse. What saves some energy for the Kentucky Derby a month from now? That's my only hesitance about him not winning the race. But this is a quality horse. I think he'll be a great horse to use in the Kentucky Derby. And the reason why I say that, Jim and Dalton, is he's won races two different type of ways. He likes to be just off the pace, and most of his ones that come off the pace. But one time he found himself up in front, and he wired the field up in front. So this horse is versatile. He could run the distance. Solid horse.
All right. Last one, Cornucopia, and this is the one we're talking about, the Baffert horse. So 7-5 odds, the favorite, but you have some reservations because of the distance.
I do. Well, his sire's into mischief, so he certainly has the distance, the bloodline to run the distance race. The only thing is, my issues with this horse are twofold. It's a huge step up in class. He won a maiden race, bravo. But I watched that race. It was on Rebel Day. Again, the track was very speed bias friendly that day. He got in front, wasn't challenged. It was a typical Baffert type of maiden win. And Baffert's taking a chance. He might be just saying, "Hey, I might be saying something great. Let's go for it." I mean, let me think. It's a $1.1 million horse. So obviously they do think very highly of this horse.
Yeah.
It's not the $100,000 horse before a cold battle. So this horse could be the real deal. If he wins on Saturday, he might be your Kentucky Derby favorite, morning line odds favorite. But for this race, again, when I mentioned earlier, I look for value. I'm going to move him down a little bit. I want him to prove it before I start betting money. If I'm going to put money on him. Again, though, it's bred to run this distance. It's just he ran a 6 furlong race and won it. Now he's going to more of a the classic distance style race. It's a lot longer race. It'll be a 2-turn race. He's not going to get his way this time around. And we'll talk a little bit more on the final wrap up right now.
Okay.
Do we know when the lines come out, by the way? Because I was looking on the sports book here. There's no lines yet for the Kentucky Derby, so I'm assuming the field's not set. Do we know when the field gets set, when those odds come out?
Yeah, there'll be one more prep race. There'll be a couple more prep races next week, and then maybe one more after that. So I think about 2 weeks from now, the field will be set. Well, actually, I'm sorry. We'll know the top 20 horses, but sometimes some of the owners might not run their horse, or the trainers might not run their horse. So then you'll go through that time. And then I think about a week before the Derby, we'll know the official lineup, and then we'll know the running order as well.
And for
along
those
with the line odds.
And for those that are new to horse racing, the line can be set now, like 7-5, but if everybody and their mother bets them, the closing odds totally change. So even when you put in your bet, it may say whatever it says, but it's the final closing. It's not like sports betting where you lock in your odds right now. Is everybody gets the same odds after the races. When the race peels off, then the closing odds are what everybody gets paid on. It's a little bit more.
Yeah, that feels like a trap, honestly, because then that kind of takes away from guys like Art here who have a little bit of that inside knowledge, as opposed to some average Joe like me.
We have to put this out on like subscriber content only or something.
Nice.
We don't everybody listen to Primetime Murphy's Horseshoe Primetime Murphy's picks. So how are you approaching this race, Art? How are you going to bet it then?
So pace makes the race. I feel like there's going to be 3 horses that are going to get out in front on Saturday. It'll be the D. Wayne Lucas horse, and it's going to be Speed King, and it's going to be Cornucopia. And Baffert just likes his horses out in front, and Speed King tried a rate, it did not work. It was an absolute disaster. So that the connections will want to get him out in front. In my mind, I think there will be some speed in this race, especially with the very lightly raced horse, Baffert horse. He might not be used to this, and he might just take that pressure and start running a little quicker, and then all of a sudden the fractions are 23 something, 46 something at quarter and a half mile into the race. So keep an eye on the fractions. That'll be during the middle of the race. And the other thing I suggest too, before you make any bets, if you have the time, watch some of the earlier races and see how the track is racing. Are the horses winning the races before this Arkansas Derby? Are they the front leading horses? Are they the ones that win it, or are you seeing some mid-pack or closers come in and win the races? So that's how I try to get some more information before these big final races to see how the track's playing. So the shape of the race makes the race, and that's usually how I try to figure out what the shape is in order to pick who's going to win in the race. So with that in mind, I think Cold Battle is going to certainly be there. And I have a feeling there's 3 horses that that are like the wild card horses for me. Publisher, the number 3 horse, and then Sandman, and then Speed King and Monet's Magic. Those are my 3 wild card horses. And we talked about each of them already. And obviously I'm biased, it's my cousin's horse, but I think Monet's Magic has a solid chance of either coming first or second on Saturday evening. So my bet is going to be a exacta box, Cold Battle, and Monet's Magic, number 7 and number 8. Exacta box that thing, and let's go for it. Because Monet's Magic, he's not going to get much. No, the heavy bettors aren't going to be looking at that horse. He's 20-1 right now. My guess will be 30, 40-1 once the race goes off. And if you box him with what's called Cold Battle, you might have some decent odds. So that's how I'm going to bet the race. I'm hoping we could bring home a winner for everybody. So good luck out there, and let's go.
There is some rain in the forecast, by the way, for Saturday in Arkansas. So keep that in the front of your mind. I was looking at the weather. Oh yeah, this has been the weather update with Coop.
Let's go. I'm going to do a little rain dance before that race.
Well, thanks, Art. You're the man. You gave us so much information. I learned more in 15 minutes than horse racing than I have my whole life. So I appreciate that. Hopefully we'll get you back on before the Derby or a special edition pre-Derby special. We probably won't be doing as regular, pods at that point. But and then next weekend, you said there's Santa Anita. There's a couple other ones. You're not as paying attention to that as much, or you're just going to kind of track those. These are the ones you're really interested.
I'll watch them and I'll bet them. So if you guys want to do this again, count me in. I absolutely love being on this podcast with you guys. If you guys want to have a horse racing segment, the next few weeks or next week, and then before the Kentucky Derby, I'm in. So count me in.
Okay. You're the man.
Thanks
for your time.
You guys are the best. Cheers.
Love you guys.
All right. Love you guys too.
All right, don't sign out. Don't sign out, Dalton. Don't sign out yet. All right. We're now on to we lost Art Murphy, but that's amazing, huh? That was crazy.
I had no idea the odds work like that too. That's almost like criminal in a way, because again, usually the future, I love a good future bet. So the quicker you can get that bet in, the better it usually works out for you, especially when because then James Hedgerton the third shows up, he can really get to work, but that doesn't work in horse racing. That's kind of sad.
No. I mean, what happens though on the positive side is if you bet on a horse and then the odds, if everybody bets on the favorites, right? The odds get so short on them that the other horses, they go up. So if you do what Art was saying, if Monet's Magic goes from 20-1 to 30-1,
40,
you're in great shape, because if it comes in, you're going to win more money than you expected. So that's fair. It is interesting. So let's talk about the tournament. Obviously we got a long one here, but kind of make it simple. I basically said it's pretty chalky. We've already talked about no 12s and no double-digit seeds besides the one team. Yep. You've got all these, basically of the top 16 seeds, only four teams didn't make it. St. John's, Iowa State, Wisconsin, and Texas A&M. Other than that, you've got the top teams, which is crazy. Covers 54% if you bet the favorites, which is always sad because Jimmy Wegs was betting so many dogs, that's why he was losing. Unders were killing it too at 58%, and so unfortunately money line winners for dogs were only at 25%, which is pretty low overall. So and only 11 seed winners. So you're doing great in the Wegs pool, so congrats. Although I do have to kind of dog you because I know you flipped out Clemson from the win of the title, but that saved your butt there. So good job. Oh yeah. I just when you have a dream in the middle of the night, you just listen to it. When your subconscious is talking to you. You had a gator talking to you in your sleep. I did. Yeah, I definitely did. So the SEC has 7 out of 16 teams, so almost 44% of the field. Big 10 and Big 12 have 25% each, and then Duke is the lone ACC team. There are no Big East teams and no non-conference Power 5 teams, which is just a little. It's just not. It's different. It's different. It feels like football. It feels like football season. Yeah. Well, let's talk very briefly over what we saw. We kind of talked a little bit last week. So we talked about Arkansas winning and getting the money line. Michigan, they killed it in the second half. Man, 56 points in the second half against A&M. they won kind of going away. They were down by 10 in the second half and won by 12, scoring 91 points. Did you get to see that game at all?
I did get to see some of it. Yeah, those 2 7-footers, man, they really can give people a hard time. And I mean, if you got a future bet on Michigan right now, you got to be feeling really good about where you're sitting as opposed to, what the team looks like for sure.
Yeah, and if they don't turn the ball over, which they haven't really in the first 2 games, then they're going to win games. That was their big knock coming into the
Yeah.
tournament from the guards.
And their coach is
Houston,
experienced. He's been there, he went there last year, so we'll see.
Yeah, and then you've got Houston. They kind of played with their food a little bit against the Zags. They were beating them pretty good, and then all of a sudden the Zags closed. But in the end, they do get the win. On Sunday, I thought was the better slate of games. You had the UConn game that Prime was talking about with Florida. They were on the ropes, bro. I mean,
Yeah,
if
they
it
had
wasn't
'em.
for Clayton Jr., that dude scored 13 points in like 4 minutes.
Mhm.
And then obviously we talked about the Rams getting beat at the buzzer by the Terps. And then Ole Miss, dude, these guys started playing. I didn't trust these guys, but they won easily over Iowa State. They were kicking the hell out of them all game.
Yeah, the fighting Michael Orrs, if you will. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
tough for Iowa State missing their best player too. So I mean,
It
everybody's
is.
kind of handicapped, but it was kind of a Jekyll and Hyde situation. You have no idea what team you're going to get. So, but to your point, Ole Miss, they are definitely, I definitely overviewed them a little bit going in, and they definitely have proved us wrong so far.
And Chris Spear, he's a good coach, and he's obviously getting it done, tournament tested. And then your Arizona Wildcats, I know you didn't pick them in the pool, but they actually did what you said they could do and played very well. Now, granted, they came out like crap against Oregon and came back and won the game. That was a pretty good game late night Sunday. But Arizona, they're going to play Duke. They've been playing really good.
I think they got a chance. I really do think they have a chance to beat Duke. Caleb Love is going to have to make shots, but I think maybe Duke might sleep on this team a little bit. And obviously, if Proctor can slow down a little bit, you still really don't know the health of Cooper. I mean, he does look good. He's been a lot more of a distributor than a scorer so far in the tournament. But yeah, we'll see. I think you could sprinkle a little cheese if you want to on that Arizona money line. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the games for the Sweet 16. We won't really talk about the Elite Eight because we don't know it. The tip-off's happening as we speak. Sorry, everybody, if you wanted to bet on this game, but hopefully you know. BYU against Alabama at 6:09. Alabama is a 4.5-point favorite. The total's like 176. I got 175.5. We know what happens. This is going to be a scoring fest, right? I mean, it's possible it isn't, but these two teams are trying to outscore each other. And using Cooplytics, this tells you go over, which I've already bet over. So I hope you're right. Do you think the Tide, their metrics say that their defense is up to 29th. I'm shocked that they can slow down this BYU offense that's played really good.
I think they can, but I still think the value lies with BYU here. BYU's been playing really well. They're really controlling the game against Wisconsin. They kind of let Wisconsin back in that game. The final score was not indicative of how well BYU'd actually played.
Right.
And I just think the value is with the underdog here. You're getting almost 5 points, and I think the Cougs can do it, especially if they get hot from 3-point land. It's going to be a long night for the Tide and Nate Oates.
Yeah, Igor's been playing good alongside, what is Richie Saunders. I love that guy with the headband. We got to get a headband out here if they win this game. So, and then the other game in that region, which is going to be at 8:39 p.m. This is all in the East region, is the Arizona Duke game. Duke is a robust 9.5-point favorite, 153.5-point total. I'm kind of looking the opposite to you, and I'll probably be wrong on this one with your cheddar cheese on Arizona. I went alt strat. I think Duke's going to blow them out. I think that Arizona's been really good, but I think they might, Oregon was a good team, of course. I just think Duke is playing at a high level, and I pushed as far as I could, get it to 13.5, so I pushed it up to get plus 150 on this one, thinking Duke will roll. But maybe you're right. Maybe Arizona gives them a dogfight, might beat them.
Well, if Caleb Love has a bad shooting night, then I would feel really good about the position that you're sitting in. I think it's going to be this game is going to be completely indicative of how well Caleb Love plays. So.
Right. And he's balled. He balled the first 2 games.
Yeah, I was going to say, and he's got experience playing against Duke, being in his North Carolina days. So he's definitely not going to be afraid of the spotlight, if you will.
It's true. The other games tonight that they'll play tonight and Saturday in the West is 6:30 tips off in about 20 minutes as we're recording. It's the Terps, Maryland going against Florida. Florida's a 6.5-point favorite, 157-point total. I don't know, man. The spread just seems too big,
Really?
I've
Okay.
pumped up Florida all year,
Mm.
and obviously they were 13-2 going to the tournament. They covered the first one, didn't barely got out alive in the second one. Maryland's starting five is really good, and I mean I think CSU should have beat them. There's no question. I saw the game; they played better than them, but I think it's a good matchup for Maryland. Obviously, the depth of Florida is what can beat on Maryland here. But in the first game of the weekend, I don't think that's as big of a factor as the second game, which I think was sort of true in the CSU game. So I'd probably take the points here at 6.5.
Yeah, and to your point, Maryland, the starting five cumulatively has the highest point per game of the
Mm-hmm.
starting five in the whole country. So no,
Mm-hmm.
no team in the country gets more points from the starting five than the Maryland Terps. But I'm going the other way here.
Okay.
I think UConn was a wake up call for Florida. Like I said,
Could be.
I don't think Florida's going to play a more physical team in this tournament than what they just saw in UConn.
Right.
And I don't know if you're going to find a better coach than what they just played against in Dan Hurley too. So I would go the other way. I'd go Florida.
Okay.
I'm a little skeptic of Maryland just because of the youth as well. So
Sure.
and
Yeah,
you
yeah.
already touched on the depth, and I think that could really take a toll here.
If Florida can get them in foul trouble, which CSU never did, that definitely hurts them because they only go
Yeah,
like 6 deep on this team.
yeah.
So. The other game is Arkansas against Texas Tech. I'm not sure why this is the capper versus Duke, Arizona, but whatever. That's at 9:09 p.m. Central on TBS. Arkansas, Texas Tech. This is 5-point favorite for Tech, 147.5-point total. Does Calipari have enough in him to test this Texas Tech team?
I think so, but I really like the under in this game. I think this is
Okay.
going to be a knock 'em out. This is going to be a rock
Mhm.
fight. I think
Yep.
both these teams are going to really lock in. Texas Tech already plays really good defense. I think Calipari is going to have the boys in Arkansas playing lockdown man-to-man defense, and I would take the under here. I guess if I'm going to take the under, that usually leans toward the underdog. So I guess you do take the
Mhm.
points, but it's tough. This is a toss-up game to me. This doesn't feel like a 10 versus a 4 at all, or a
No.
10 versus a 3.
3
Excuse
to
me.
4, yeah.
Yeah, this does not feel like this. I mean, they do play, I guess, every in the regular season too. So do we know the regular season split of these two teams?
Well, Tech is in the Big 12, so I don't know if these teams
Oh,
played.
that's right. That's right. See, that's
So
what's screwed because in
I
football,
know.
they're
It's
yeah.
hard.
Anyway.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think if it's a lower scoring game, it helps Arkansas. It's probably a better in-game situation. I did get
Yeah,
5.5 with
100%,
Arkansas as a dog,
100%.
but and I looked at it, these teams are closer metrically, even though Arkansas is pretty far down the way. But you start looking at offense, defense, not that far apart. Um, so tomorrow's games, you've got Friday, Sunday splits with the Sweet 16, the Elite Eight games. The first game by 6:09 is Ole Miss at Michigan State. This is the shortest favorite in the whole bunch here. Michigan State's a 3.5-point favorite, 143-point total. Probably the best coaching matchup we've seen, maybe even better than Pitino and Calipari. So I will bet in game in this one. I'm going to see where this goes because I like I didn't like Ole Miss from a spread standpoint, but they played so well in the first weekend. And Michigan State, as good as they've played, I think Beard's going to have something for this team. So I'm going to sit back and watch. 3.5 is a nice small number, but you could get a better number probably for Ole Miss if Michigan State goes out to a quick lead.
Yeah, it's just really hard to bet against Izzo in March. I don't
Mm-hmm.
I would have
I
a
get
hard
it.
time doing that. Especially I think the style of play Michigan State has, they're definitely more of that grindy team. And I just, I think Ole Miss likes to get out and run and they like to spread the floor. And I just think that the Michigan State has the athleticism to kind of handle that playing style. So I think to your point, it is a really good coaching matchup, but I think you're probably right on the in-game situation here. I think if somebody comes out hot, this is going to be a game of runs for sure. You're going to
Mm-hmm.
see 4 to 5 different, runs in this game, and I think you should take your swing when you get one.
Yeah, Sean Padula, that's the guard for Ole Miss. Have you seen this kid? He's been balling. He kind of gets into the crowd and stuff. Kind of fun. Okay, so the second game in that region is Michigan, the 5 seed against Auburn. Auburn's a 9-point favorite here, 153.5-point total. I don't know. I I said I'll likely bet Auburn in game because if Michigan comes out fast, you get a shorter number. 9 seems like too much the way Auburn's been playing. Now,
Yeah.
granted, they've been closing games and winning. They actually shouldn't have covered that second game, but they did. But in the end, what are we talking about here? I mean, Auburn's probably a better basketball team, but Michigan's playing really good. They won 7 straight now.
Yeah, I mean, it's never a bad idea to bet on the oldest team in the field. That's how I would look at it.
That's true.
So that, I mean, I'm with you there, but I do think nine's too big of a number. Yeah, I think you definitely take the underdog here. I mean, especially in game, if you can get to a double digit to a 10 or an 11, I would hammer it for sure.
Hmm. I was thinking the other way. I'll bet Auburn if it's down to like a 3-point favorite or something. You know what I mean? Because like if
Yeah.
Michigan comes out rolling and they maybe even get to a pick somewhere, I think Auburn will probably win the game overtime, but we'll see. They haven't come out. They're like kind of like you said, OGs. They come out in the second half. They're like, okay, we figured this team out and let's play better.
Right.
They're not really caring about our first half spreads if you're betting on that.
Yeah, they've been struggling with the 16 seed with Alabama State there for a little bit. So yeah, to your point. Yeah.
I know. So in the second region Midwest, Kentucky against Tennessee. This is this is at 6:39 p.m. on TBS. That's the 4.5-point favorite for Tennessee, 144.5 point total. The all SEC matchup in the Sweet 16, which doesn't happen too often. So this is a little strange. I understand why metrically they gave Tennessee the favorite here, but Kentucky beat them twice in the regular season. So time-honored question: can you beat a team 3 times, and can you cover this number?
I would go Tennessee. If it were the other way around, I'd go Kentucky. So I would play the trend. So I'm with Tennessee. They're playing in Indianapolis too, I believe. So it's going to be a nice split crowd. More than likely, you're going to see a lot of orange and blue. So it's not really going to be any kind of advantage one way or the other. But I'd go Tennessee. I think Rick Barnes finds a way to get it done. And when Art brought it up earlier, Illinois made 0 second half adjustments against Kentucky.
Yeah,
like that was a ball game. I think it was a 5-point game at halftime. They were right there, and they just made 0 in-game adjustments, and Kentucky just ran away with them, which I think Rick Barnes will make those adjustments when needed. And yeah,
but I'm asking, so you're saying you're going against the trend because Kentucky won the 2 regular season games, not Tennessee.
Well,
okay,
I think it is hard to beat. I think it is incredibly difficult to beat the same team 3 times in the season. Yeah.
I think so too. I still think Kentucky got overseeded. I know that they beat Illinois, but I still don't believe in this team. So as much as I don't believe in Tennessee making the Final Four, I think they're probably going to win this game. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the last game is at 9:09 Central on TBS. Purdue against Houston. 8.5-point favorite for Houston. 132-point total. Super low total. I think Houston's going to beat on them pretty good, but the thing about Houston is they don't necessarily cover these big numbers. It's my only worry about it. And Purdue has played okay, but Purdue, to me, played 2 double-digit seeds to get here. So I think Houston's a little more battle-tested playing the Zags. I do think Houston's going to beat them pretty good.
Yeah, and the fun fact about Purdue, I actually learned this as I was prepping for this podcast. Do you know they're the only team left in the NCAA tournament where all starting 5 of their players are originally committed to their school? None of their starting 5 came from the transfer portal or from a different school. So I thought that was fascinating. So maybe the continuity will pay off. I'm just saying maybe the continuity does pay off, and maybe somebody out there listening will dip a little bit on Purdue. But I was going to say living with a Purdue alum back here, she might have something else to say about that. But I think you're right. I think Houston's too big. I think they're too athletic. I think they're too experienced, and I just think it's going to be too much for them to handle.
Okay, Lydia seems to be heckling us right now.
But that's fine. She's not happy with that pick, to say the least.
All right. So what's up on the weekend? Looks like you got a road trip ahead.
I do. I'm heading down to Peoria on Saturday to cover it's not a PBA event, but there will be PBA bowlers in attendance. So
nice.
Just going to be up in the portfolio, if you will. And then we might Linnea's on spring break next week, so we thought about going to a White Sox game one of these days. Hopefully it doesn't. It's supposed to rain a lot in Chicago. I don't know if you've checked the weather or not. It's supposed to be pretty pitiful, unfortunately. But maybe we can get out and maybe we can get out and catch a game. The Angels are supposed to be in town, so maybe we can catch some Mike Trout action. But
nice.
Other than that, it should be a pretty status quo weekend ahead.
Okay, nice. My niece Madeline, I think you've met her before. She got married last year technically, but she didn't have a big gathering or wedding. So the reception is this weekend.
Nice.
Family's coming to town. Big Jim's hitting. Big Jim's making landfall soon. Tomorrow there's some sort of dinner. We'll see what happens. And then Saturday I helped a little with the playlist. She had a pretty good playlist.
Nice.
And then I'll play volleyball before that. And then Sunday we'll see what happens. Just watch some games. But looking forward to a little bit more relaxing. It took me a minute to get back to normal after that Vegas I mean, I was not unlike him. I probably, God, I had way too much to drink the first 2 days and had to kind of throttle back because I was not sleeping too well. But yeah, hey, I needed it. I needed it.
Yeah.
You know?
You only live once, Jim, you know?
Yeah, exactly. You only have one liver. Well, unless you get a transplant, but
Well, neither one of us make enough money for that, unfortunately.
exactly. So, well, good, man. Well, follow us on Side Action Pod on X and Side Action Podcast on Instagram. Don't forget about TikTok. I'm going to make some silly something up there.
Oh, yeah.
And
We got
follow
to
me
make
at
two
Wegs
this
Coop on
week.
X. I know I might have to do a split. I'll figure out
Yeah.
how to do it. But follow me on X and on Instagram at Wegs Coop.
Oh, yeah. And I'm Coop. You can check me on Instagram at Dalton Cooper, on X at Mr. Grumpy Gills. Again, don't forget about the TikTok. Also, check us out on YouTube. I know there's some people out there that do stream us on YouTube and like to see our smiling faces every now and again. But yeah, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, check us out. And we're hoping to give you some winners. I'm actually looking forward to this horse race. Now I'm going to kind of pay attention to this on the weekend.
I know.
And
Get information.
Yeah, I was just saying, and see what our in-house man can provide for us.
Well, even if it doesn't pan out the way his picks, it's just the way he's breaking it down, right?
Yes, I find that fascinating.
Obviously, I don't have the time to do that necessarily, but I mean, maybe I could after the basketball season. I mean, I am working a job, but the man's breaking it down. We're like talking. We drove out to River. He's telling me all about this stuff. I'm like, okay, like great, like share this on the pod because the listeners want to win money. I mean, how are we going to do this? So
yeah, I had no idea like different hooves existed, like even all the way down to those little minute details. Yeah, that's completely fascinating to me. I had no idea.
Yeah, it's exciting. All right, guys, enjoy the games this weekend.
Love you guys.
That's a wrap for this episode of the Side Action Podcast. We appreciate all of your listens and thank you for joining us. We'll see you all again next week on Thursday for some more hot picks and side action. Side Action Podcast, its owners and associates take no responsibility for the opinions or statements made by the show hosts or their guests. Statements or show topics are not necessarily the beliefs of this podcast, and opinions between talk show hosts may conflict. Individuals following the advice given on the podcast accept their own risk of losses from wagers made, as the Side Action Podcast, its owners, hosts, associates, or guests will not guarantee any advice given. The opinions and advice given on the Side Action Podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Intro and outro and transition music credits. Song titles Jerry 5 and District 4 by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.org. Licensed under Creative Commons Attribution 3.0. creativecommons.org/licenses/by 3.0.